Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining, everybody, for another blind review. I have really slowed down my whiskey purchasing, and in general, I tend not to buy things anymore that I know I'm not going to like going in. Does make it strange for the channel because it doesn't necessarily allow me then to give this well-rounded view of whiskeys I like, don't like, things that are in the middle. But that's where great whiskey friends come into play. Todd over at the Bourbon Road Podcast provided me with an entire box of samples of recent releases and things that he was excited for me to try. I then took that box without reading any of the labels, put them into a box so I can pull those samples out blind, and we can do blind reviews together. So shout out to Todd. Go follow Todd and the Bourbon Road Podcast wherever you can subscribe to podcasts such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. And let's get into this whiskey. So thank you for joining, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. So what I got here is a black box. This black box has lots of different sample bottles in it, but I cannot see the labels as we go into this. I'm going to blindly pull one from this box. And ultimately, I'm also going to pour it in this jet black Glen so I don't even get the benefits of the color to bias me whatsoever. I have no idea what type of whiskey it will be or any of the stats going in. And here at the channel, we do have a robust scoring system that we put all these whiskeys through every time we do a review. And I'll be walking through that process, a little streamlined, but essentially you'll get a sense of the scores as it builds up into the final score. Now, based on these, I do not know how much these cost, so I'll give it the benefit of the doubt for the scoring system, a 10 out of 10 on value, essentially somewhat taking value off the field for these particular reviews. All right, so I'm going to reach in here. I'm going to pull one out. So I did this the first time it ended up being E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof. Gave that one an 84 out of 100. I think that was a pretty good score. It's actually the exact same score I gave to E.H. Taylor when I didn't do it blind. So that made me feel a bit better about trying to be consistent with these. All right. I can feel the label here. I'm going to show you what this is up front. That way you are in the know, but I am going to be looking away here. Hopefully the camera does its thing and zooms into the label appropriately. So this is what we will be blind reviewing today. All right. So I'll kind of show that around. Hopefully the label did its thing and it zoomed in for you. All right. So it's back in my hand. I'm not going to look at the color either. And I'm going to pour this into the black Glen. There we go. All right. We are in. I'm going to put the sample bottle in my pocket. And now let's see what Todd has shared with us here. So I'm going to go through, experience the nose, experience the palate. And then as we go through this too, I'll kind of show you some truncated grades as we go through each of the experiences, which will ultimately then lead into that final score. Cheers, everybody. Let's get into the nose first here. Honestly, quite a bit going on the nose on first impression. Initially, I was getting a little bit of a bubble yum, going into more of the fruity bubblegum range. The fruits themselves seem to be the main event. There is this nice layer of spice, as is a layer of oak, but nothing too oaky. We're looking at something probably 6 to 8 years, I would guess. On the nose on this one, very well put together here. Again, fruit forward, really nothing offensive. I like that layer of spice that I'm getting along with those fruits. There was anywhere that I was debating a little bit was on the complexity, whether to give this one a 7 or an 8 on complexity, but I ended up going an 8 on flavor and an 8 on complexity, making this a above average nose experience. All right, let's go in on the taste. Cheers, everybody. Very similar impressions here through and through from the front of the palate all the way to the finish. A lot of those characteristics on the nose do play through. Up front, quite fruity and spicy, and then actually a very, very good mouthfeel, followed by a nice explosion of flavors. Mid palate that brings in a bit more complexity, even bringing in what I would describe as a caramel, kind of reminiscent of an inside of a Rolo, where it's got that kind of creaminess to it as well. The fruits, as you get into mid palate, really do brighten up, almost going from the initial berry impression, even into more melons, not quite to honeydew, but there is a little bit of that type of subtle sweetness there. maybe even a little honey too, now that I call it out. And all that carries through to the finish where the spice returns and the oak presence returns, as well as a little bit of that bubble gum that we were talking about at the start on the nose. So a lot of consistency on this pour and what it's offering through and through. So going through my score sheet here, we're going to go 8.5 when it comes from the upfront experience in terms of the initial flavors and the overall mouthfeel. Mid palate, again, keeping it at an 8. I like the things it's doing. Again, nothing's off-putting going into this, but there isn't also a wow factor there mid-palate either, but solid 8s. Really not trying to knock it with that statement. And then with the finish, which is actually probably my favorite part of this, man, I could debate an extra point here, but I'm going to go 8.5 on the finish, giving it an 8 on flavors, 9 on the length of the finish. Really, really like what this is doing at a technical angle, though maybe the flavors aren't necessarily resonating with me. This is a whiskey I can really appreciate, which brings this one off the blind pour to essentially a score of an 85 out of 100. Again, just kind of summing it up. I mean, while the overall flavor profile isn't inspiring me, man, like I'm really looking forward to seeing what this is. Even without looking at the label yet, man, like knowing Todd, I wonder if this is something like from Whiskey Thieves, or if this might be a preview of some of the barrels that they've been doing with the Frankfurt Bourbon Society. All right, let's find out together. So we were drinking, Frey Ranch, oh my God, that was a rye. Frey Ranch, 6 years, farm strength rye. That was a rye. Really? Man, that did not scream rye to me all that time. I mean, I guess now that I'm looking for it, I guess you can find a bit more brightness and citrus and a little bit of mintiness, but man, yeah, that's definitely a rye. That threw me off. It's an interesting profile there, but being 6 years old with a little bit of that bubble gum, that craftiness in there, that does make a whole lot of sense. All right, let's see what we can learn about this pour. All right, so here are the details I was able to find here. This is 124.52 proof, 6 years old, listed price $80. Man, and it's sitting there at a 100% winter rye. Man, this is 100% rye on top of everything. This threw me off. I mean, even knowing what it is now, it still feels meatier and more savory than I would typically get from a rye. And for those that don't know, Frey Ranch is a distillery coming out of Nevada. They've really pushed on that more like grain to glass type of a story. And Frey Ranch is a brand that I myself need to get back into and re-explore. I do find at times, us as a whiskey community, we tend to follow the hot hand and we all get into something at the same time. And then we get oversaturated and then we just forget about it for a little bit. And I kind of feel that way a little bit about Frey Ranch. Like I need to get back into Frey Ranch. Really, really interested to see what happens with Frey Ranch as these age statements go up as well. But let me know what you think in the comments. Have you had the farm strength rye from Frey Ranch? What is your take on it? And what do you think's throwing me off, being that it's 100% rye? Man, I'm still not even like locked in and I know what it is. Thank you again to Todd. We'll keep doing this series. And just remember, while you can always have more whiskey, you can never have enough whiskey friends. So take care of those around you, and we will catch you on the next one. Goodbye, buddy. Thank you for watching. Hello again, whiskey friends, everybody. A big shout out to our amazing Patreon community. If it wasn't for you, we couldn't continue to produce the content and barrel picks week after week. And for everybody else out there, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. It really helps the channel more than you know. And we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye.